Let's do this. Hey guys, today we are going to be talking about Oz the Great and Powerful, released in 2013, directed by Sam Raimi, and stars James Franco, Mila Kunis, Rachel Weisz, Michelle Williams, Zach Braff, Bill Cobbs, Joey King, and Tony Cox. The film tells the story of Oscar Diggs, a deceitful stage musician who arrives in the land of Oz and encounters a trio of witches, Theodora, Avenora, and Glinda. Soon after, Diggs is then enlisted to restore order in Oz while struggling to resolve conflicts with the witches and himself. The film is a spiritual prequel to the 1939 film The Wizard of Oz, and it is the third and final Oz project from Walt Disney Productions, following 1985's Return to Oz and 2005's The Muppets Wizard of Oz, the latter of which wasn't very good. Before I continue on, I'm just going to get this out of the way real quick. This film, not very good. In fact, this is actually my least favourite live-action, theatrically released Oz film. And if you came here for a positive review, this may not be for you. That isn't to say that this film has nothing to offer. It does have a few things that I actually quite like. For starters, I really like the use of the aspect ratio at the beginning of the film. The film, of course, starts off in Kansas, 1905, and it's very black and white, just like the 1939 film. And then when James Franco's Oscar Diggs first arrives in Oz, the aspect ratio widens and becomes more colourful, fully showcasing the new and foreign but beautiful land that he has found himself in. And it is very effective. And this leads me to praise the colour grading in the film. While there is a lot of CGI and a lot of it is not held up well, the colours in the film pop like it is an extremely vibrant looking film. I also quite like Danny Elfman's score in this. I would actually consider it pretty underrated. My favourite use of the score is during the opening credits, where I could really feel the whimsy and danger of the Land of Oz in terms of its tone. It is pretty good. Some of the cast gave some decent performances. Michelle Williams as Glinda the Good Witch of the South, Zach Braff as the voice of Finley, the talking flying monkey that James Franco meets, Bill Cobbs as the Master Tinker, and Tony Cox as Nuck, which are smaller roles. However, the best performance in the film by a mile is Rachel Weisz, who plays Avenora, the Wicked Witch of the East, and she is very charismatic and manipulative in the role. You can tell that she ate up every second of screen time that she got. We also quite respect the filmmaker's decision to go a completely different direction and make the Wicked Witch of the East the main villain of this film, especially considering that this Wicked Witch does eventually get crushed by a farm girl's house. Now, I haven't mentioned Joey King's vocal performance as the China Girl yet, and that's for good reason. For the performance itself, she does a really good job in the role, very sweet and very innocent, but it's actually tied into my last positive of the film, and that is the China Girl's introduction scene and the CGI effects that are used on her. Good Lord, this is the best scene in the entire film, and it's very emotional, it's very heartbreaking and heartwarming. Everyone in this scene does a good job. Even James Franco does do his best in the film, in that scene at least, and unfortunately that's the only good scene in the film. Okay, with all my positives done, let's get to my issues. First up, James Franco as Oscar Diggs, the Wizard of Oz himself. Complete miscast. No likability, no charisma. His performance, he just doesn't care for. He just comes across as very selfish and unlikable. And I get that being selfish is part of his character arc, but you can at least make him likable, and in this, he just isn't likable. The writing for this film also isn't very good. Like the screenplay by Mitchell Kapner and David Lindsay-Abaire, it really does feel as if it's using a cliche Chosen One prophecy template and sort of telling that but using the Wizard of Oz setting, and it just doesn't work at all. And speaking of just using the Wizard of Oz setting to tell this story, it also does show that the filmmakers didn't really view the Land of Oz as anything unique. Like, it can come across at times as being more of a generic fantasy world than the Land of Oz. And there's just too much CGI as well, and a lot of it has not held up, especially in scenes of characters walking through this magical world. And lastly, Mila Kunis as Theodora, the Wicked Witch of the West. Aside from the fact that she was completely miscast in the role and that she gave a pretty bad performance, this version of the character is the worst one in any Oz project to date. And one of the very big reasons why, involves me going into some spoiler territory. So if you don't want to know, you can click off this video, watch the film and come back. Otherwise, if you don't care, I'm going to be talking about this reason in 3, 2, 1. When talking about the Wicked Witch of the West, whether they are proud to be evil and wicked or are complex and misunderstood, it doesn't matter, because they all at least have agency. And Mila Kunis' Theodora has no agency at all. First off, she falls head over heels in love with James Franco, and then she is later tricked by Eleonora into believing that he has betrayed her for Glinda. And then she is later tricked again into eating a poisoned apple that turns her wicked, makes her the green-skinned monster that Dorothy would later meet years later. And it just doesn't work. And, and when she becomes the Wicked Witch, she comes across as very whiny and bratty. Also, the makeup on her looks really terrible. There are only 2 things that I like about this version of the Wicked Witch. One is her large hat, and the second is her entrance when she goes to confront Glinda and Oz. Like, it looks really cool and it nicely homages the 1939 original. And that's all I have to say. Overall, Oz the Great and Powerful isn't very good. Aside from some good performances, some good color grading, and a really good score, this just doesn't work as an Oz film at all. Like, you have terrible leads, you have a terrible script, and the Land of Oz comes across as more generic than a unique place that you'd want to go or be immersed in. Of course, not long after the film's release, they did talk about doing a sequel, but it has been 12 years since this film came out as of me recording this, and development has not begun on it. So you could see this as confirmation that that Disney have quietly cancelled the project. So any type of follow-up to this is never going to happen, and probably for the best, honestly. And that's it for Oz the Great and Powerful. Phew, we've finally gone past it. Next time, I am going to be talking about 2024's Wicked. I am beyond excited to talk about it. And of course, it could be a more perfect time considering that Wicked for Good is coming out within the week. I am so excited. Thank you all so much for watching. If you want to leave a like, that would be nice. And if you wanted to hit the subscribe button, that would also be nice. I hope you all stay safe out there. And what else is there to say? But cheers, everybody.